Hello, everyone, and welcome to Strategy Gaming Dojo, where we find, learn, and play one more turn of the great strategy games. And today we're going to continue on with our Let's Play of Gary Grigsby's War in the Pacific Admiral's Edition. Now, yesterday I did a live stream of the turn one resolution. So we had gone through, we had set up the allies, and we hit next turn and we watched that play out. Now, thank you to everyone that came by the live stream. I was actually surprised the number of faces that I saw, especially the Europeans in the group that were up rather late. Of course, as with everything else, you learn when you do something. One thing I learned is chroma key on Twitch for this game because I don't really know. I think because the game's a little older, or I'm not sure exactly the mechanics of why, but it did cause the video quality to not be as good. And also, it really darkened things up. And so it looked like we had our fleet was black and some of the islands looked very dark. Now, watching it back, you could see everything that was going on, but it was a little distracting for me anyway. I can't speak for anyone else, but hey, you live and you learn. So we gave it a shot. Now, next time, I'm going to make a few changes. One is I'm going to stream to both Twitch and YouTube at the same time. So if you don't want to go to Twitch, you don't have to. I am ironing out those video issues, and so the live stream next time should look just like this, like it does in all of our videos. And also, I'm going to change the time. I'm going to try to start a little bit earlier. I think the tentative plan right now is to try to stream at 10 a.m. Pacific time on Sundays, at least for now. So I will be definitely doing a live stream every Sunday at 10 a.m. Pacific Coast time. So that will give our European friends a chance to watch live, and hopefully, Sunday's maybe a little more relaxed day for everyone as opposed to doing it in the middle of the week. I probably will do a middle of the week stream, but I think I will do kind of whatever the secondary game is that I'm, you know, uh, doing a tutorial or a let's play for at that time. So take like Crusader Kings 3. I've had that going on as well as this game. So I will probably do that midweek and I will do our War in the Pacific, which really seems to be, the big draw here on the channel. So I think I will be doing that on Sundays at 10 a.m. Pacific Coast time every week until we end this war. So you may be talking to me in 2025 or chatting with me at least on the live stream. So that's how I think we'll proceed at least in the immediate future. As things progress, who knows? I may do more live streams. It really just kind of depends what you guys want. This channel is really for you to learn games, to watch games, for us all to, as a community, talk about the games that we really enjoy. And so, I am always open to feedback, whatever you guys want. On the live stream yesterday, I did talk about probably doing Shadow Empire next. So I think that I've kind of locked that in as soon as I'm completely done with the Crusader Kings stuff. Of course, we're also doing War in the East, which is a very dense tutorial to say the least. I'm preparing for the support units and commander section of that, and that is really something. That's it's a lot to know. It's a lot to try to fit into an hour for sure. But we'll be doing War in the Pacific, War in the East, and then I think that third game will be Shadow Empire. We also have Field of Glory 2 Medieval coming out soon, and I really enjoy Field of Glory 2, just the base game, and the original Field of Glory, even the tabletop game. I've played them all. It's a great game if you like that kind of tactical. It's almost like chess, right? It's really chess with some more options. and I will probably try to do a quick tutorial on Field of Glory 2 before Field of Glory 2 Medieval comes out, and I believe that's February 4th. So I will be getting that going pretty quickly here as well. So anyway, on to the task at hand here, which is to go over what happened in that first turn. And I wanted to get this out kind of quickly because as I said, I realized the live stream was a little dark and maybe in some ways hard to tell what was going on, or the video quality wasn't great. And so I wanted to get our normal videos up and going here again and just kind of talk about what happened in that first turn. Now, after a turn resolves, my normal, I guess, or I guess my review of that turn is the best way to say it. My normal thing to do is I'll go here to, the intelligence button, and I'll just kind of take a grand overview of what happened here. The number of sorties that we flew in total in the campaign and the Japanese. So the Japanese did get more planes in the air, but we were, not too far away from them, which is kind of something considering that, the Japanese have quite a bit more air power than us. Now, of course, their big task force is moving away from Pearl Harbor at this point, not really flying any missions, and so that, reduces this number a bit. They hit us pretty hard at the Philippines, although not as hard as I've seen it sometimes. There is a lot more hell and fury that will be coming to Clark Field, to Bataan, to Manila. All of those places will be getting, a lot of action. They also, quite surprisingly, really didn't do much in the Malaya Peninsula. Now, they did hit over at Lore Star, which okay. Um, we're really not doing much with that. We have a suicide unit that we're sending up there, but they're not there yet. We are getting most everything out of the northern part of the Malaya Peninsula that we still control. They did land on Kota Baru and they hit Kota Baru a little bit, but nothing terrible. They also came after some of our ships that are trying to get out of Hong Kong with very little success. They came after the destroyers, but we'll go and look at all of that. So 1950 on the sorties, 1636 for us. We did lose 15 planes in air to air. They lost three. Uh, we're going to want to see a much better ratio than that, although for a first turn, just settling in. I'm not, don't want to make too much of that. Nothing was destroyed on an airfield. We did knock down a plane through some flak. Gosh, I can't remember exactly where that happened. I want to say that that happened maybe at Clark Field, but I'm not positive. Operational losses, we lost two. Now it's showing seven for the campaign, so it must be counting some planes that were hit on the initial Pearl Harbor attack on December 7th that maybe weren't completely out of operation yet. Now they are. Uh, but we lost two, operational. Japanese, it appears, lost five. Okay. Our political points are now up to 133. We'll want to be monitoring that. Of course, we have a lot of things that we're going to want to buy out. Some of those things on the spreadsheet that were listed in red, that, the kind of things you want to do in the second, third, fourth move to buy some things out of their command and use our political points that way. 133, all right, we're building. Let's see, Japanese score, 1780. Wow, let's stop the game. We've won on the judges' scorecards. Well, you are going to have quite an advantage, of course, for quite some time, and the reason being is, as of right now, we control well over two times the number of bases that the Japanese do. That number will be whittled down, whittled down, whittled down, but that's where we're getting the majority of our points. You see here aircraft lost points. Uh, it's 22 we lost, and they lost 9. If we came over here and counted everything up, these are 22 air losses and these are 9. Um, we lost some guys on the ground. I think that was at Kota Baru. We lost some. Um, Allied ship sunk 2 for 337 points. Now, why did that happen? Well, at Pearl Harbor, I do believe we lost the Arizona and the other battleship. What was it? The Nevada, maybe? Um, Now we could look back and find it through the scroll, but I'm not going to do that. I know that one was the Arizona, and hmm, do we have any other ships with damage here at Pearl Harbor? Just out of, we actually got some stuff at Pearl Harbor this time. Uh, no, the Nevada is still afloat. So it was the Arizona. I think we can go see it, right? Hold on. We can go see which ships are sunk right here. And oh, yeah, well, obviously I should have just done that in the first instance. The Oklahoma, which was worth 157 points, the Arizona 180. Hey, I mean, there's just nothing we could do about that. Those ships were at 99, 99, 99 damage as we started the game. And so, the Japanese get a nice little bonus there right off the top for things that really happened out of our control in some respects. Now, if you want to go look at the aircraft losses, you can look over here. The Japanese lost two zeros today, two to ops, two in total. So you can always come and look at, why you lost planes, how many you lost today, and then why. We lost, these P-40E Warhawks, vast majority of them to air, whether it be the B or the E. We lost some to some operational stuff. Okay, it's going to happen. There's not a whole lot you can do about that. This, then goes on to recap the air war, if you want to look at that. One thing I was going to mention is now, Cole's spreadsheet, if you look at it, you go to Allied Setup 1241. Okay, great. There is another tab that says Allied Arrivals in 1241. He goes on and documents each of the unit squadron ships that you will be getting in December and gives you suggested, orders to give to them, just like the regular spreadsheet. And so you do have a kind of a nice log there of the things that you're receiving. Now, just to get into best practices, I always say if you're going to start a new game of War in the Pacific, get yourself a brand new nice notebook or open up Microsoft Word and start taking notes. As you go through, one of those notes that you're going to want to look at is, as time goes on and you don't have this spreadsheet that you can lean on, is you're going to want to go look at what's showing up where the next day. As you can see, a day from now, we are getting a lot of stuff. Um, it just goes on and on and on. So, we will have a lot of, now a lot of these are Eastern US, and so they will really be training aircraft, but some, not all of them. Some of them we will be shipping to the West Coast. You're also getting these B-26 Marauders out here in Seattle, uh, more B-17Es. You get Bolos. You start to see, all of this material that you get. These wow, Airacobras. I don't know why I had a hard time saying that. The Airacobras will be coming into LA. These actually are not locked, if I remember correctly. Well, we can go look. Yeah, they're part of the 2 U.S. Fighter Command. The 2 US fighter you are going to be sending out into the Pacific. So very quickly here, we're going to get 75 fighters, which is really nice, right? But you've got a lot of other stuff. We're not going to go through every single thing here. But the idea here is you can, take this, copy it over to Microsoft Word or Notebook, whatever you want to do, or your own spreadsheet if you want to keep a spreadsheet, or I'm old school, I'm tactile, I like to write things down. I'll keep a notebook. Now, maybe for something this extensive, not, but as you get a little deeper, you can easily make a note, hey, I'm getting 18 wildcats at Eastern US next turn. So at the start of this turn, you may want to go write down, take notes, whatever, of what you're going to be getting next turn. Okay. And that goes for planes, ships. You'll see the ship availability. Let's flip that to what we'll be getting. So in one day, we'll be getting a patrol craft out at Mare Island. In 3 days, we get a few things. Okay, 6 days. It's all fairly manageable to take notes on this stuff. Same with ground reinforcements. Just always go look at these. And as I said, I know it's easy early on. Hey, I'll just go look at the spreadsheet. I get that, but you might want to get in the habit of taking these notes because you're going to have to eventually. You're going to run out of the spreadsheet at some point once we get into January of 42, and it's just good to get organized early on because half of the battle in this game is staying organized. So you see we're getting a lot of 3 Indian Corps here at Cape Town. You can also look at this just at a glance to start thinking about where you need troop transports, right? And so we're going to be getting a lot of troops here at Cape Town. To the extent we can, we need to be getting transports to Cape Town. Now, we did get a couple this turn with the resolution of this turn. Two of the ships that showed up were transport ships at Cape Town. But, always maybe be looking ahead 10, 15 days and thinking, where do I need to be getting my troop transports to be the most efficient because there's nothing more frustrating than having ground troops show up. You need ground troops, and you say, "Oh, where are my troop transports?" Well, they're all at Colombo. Now I've got to, form them up into a task force, get them to Cape Town. Meanwhile, by the time you get those troops loaded up and back where they need to go, you may have wasted 10 days, 12 days, and there's no reason for it with a little bit of planning. We have stuff coming into Tacoma. So anyway, just things to look at, to be thinking about. Let's go back up here. Um, that's really, of course, this has all the information that you want. You can go look, you can sort, you can check out, what's coming, what you've lost, uh, and what's going to be withdrawn. For instance, we haven't talked a lot about withdrawals, but we will have to start thinking about it here at some point because in 12 days, we're going to have a unit that wants to withdraw. Now, so a lot of these start back in May or June or July. It's not something you have to be panicked about, but just something to think about. The next thing along here then would be that I look at early on. You may want to look through your combat reports. So you get AARs here of every single combat that happened this round. And so if the game was moving fast or you escaped through something and you're like, shoot, I really wanted to see that, you can always go back and see every combat of the previous round. And you can do a quick scan here. Now, I just remember from when we resolved the turn, we had a lot of Japanese bombers coming in at 23,000 feet. So it's just something to think about when you set your cap that we're setting cap generally at about 10,000, sometimes 15,000 feet, depending on the plane. Now, the Japanese planes generally early in the war operate better at higher altitudes than your planes do. So there might not be anything you can do about it, but it's information that you can process. And when you're setting a cap, you can look at the maneuverability rating of your plane and say, hey, this can go up to 20,000 feet. Well, every little bit up there that you can get gives them less of an advantage from attacking you from above, which is always an advantage in air to air. Um, so these are a lot of these were early bombing runs that they did, Nates and Anns. This is the one at Hong Kong. So they hit Hong Kong, and you can see every single one of this entire turn. Uh, Generally, at the top, you're going to see the air phase at the top because this is how the game resolves. It resolves air combat uh, early, and then ground combat is kind of one of the later things that it resolves in any pulse or any turn. Uh, the Japanese did capture Bataan Island, differentiate that from Bataan that is on the Philippine island of Luzon. This is its own island, Bataan. So we can get out here, we can go look. This is Bataan Island. This base is Bataan. Now we have a Japanese ship that's gotten down in here. Let's see what kind of detection that we've got on it. Enemy task force, ship sighted 1. I'm gonna bet, I'd bet $100 that that is a mine layer that they've tried to get in here. And so I do believe at Manila we have, do we? Surely. Whoops, we don't want that. Oh, we've got the Canopus up here. We're gonna have to think about the Canopus. That's our submarine tender, getting it out of here. I think either at Bataan, maybe at Bataan, we have a minesweeper. Yeah, we've got our minesweeper here at Bataan. Hopefully, if they do get any mines down, we can sweep those. Or better yet, let's have something blow the heck out of that. What I suspect must be a mine layer out of the water up there. So you can go through all the combat reports. Then we have operations reports. Okay, the operational report here will tell you a wealth of information. What was spotted? And so you'll see here one of our A-20 Havocs reported an oil slick. Okay, uh, these again very helpful. This is where we were merging with certain task forces. It will tell you that. Any sightings of aircraft, uh, ships moving, this can be our spotters. It could be civilians. It could be military. This is, kind of a now, we do have an intelligence report that we'll look at here in a minute, which is more like rumors. These are, well, I don't want to say that they're more um, reliable. These kind of things definitely happened, right? We know that. We're being told these other things, and could be true, might not be true. Usually, this stuff is much more solid information in my experience. Um, in these sorts of things, like the destroyer Ward followed a Japanese aircraft near Pearl Harbor. I mean, no reason to not believe that, right? Um, Sighting reports, okay, fine. Um, and so, you can look through all of these, and it can give you a decent kind of overview of maybe where the Japanese are moving. And here we see the Oklahoma and the Arizona sinking in port. All right. The Panji was snooped by a Japanese aircraft. I like the fact that they use the word snooped. Um, we had the Boise was snooped here. I always think it's funny. Right? See that? I just see a developer sitting there say, "Well, what are we going to call this?" They kind of looked at it. They did a flyover or something. No, let's call it snooped. Um, Again, these are all sightings. These are things that most likely happen. A lot of these are things we definitely know that happen, but you will see kind of all of that running list of messages that happen down to the left. That this is just a recap of all of those things. You can also see all of your arrivals. So as we get forward in time, if you think, oh gosh, I forgot to write in my notebook or put in the spreadsheet what was supposed to arrive, I don't want to go hop all around the map to figure out what arrived last turn. You can go here in your operational report, and it will tell you everything that arrived this turn. And so you can see the squadrons, the various squadrons, ground troops, whatever they may be. We had a lot of base forces. Remember the missing 113th base force that we couldn't find for a moment, and I was looking all over for it. It was driving me crazy, and other people mentioned it as well. Well, here it is. It has arrived in LA, so we will have to give it those orders that we were hoping to give it last time. But you can see all of that on the operational report. Okay, so that's the OP up here. Then you have the SIGINT report, signal intelligence. These are more kind of like rumors. These are things, obviously spies are not modeled in this game, but these are the kind of things that you would be getting from your intelligence apparatus that's spread out across Asia. Maybe you have some people embedded in Japan. Maybe it's just a guy in the Philippines that has talked to his, Japanese cousin. Who knows where these come from, right? But you're getting this intelligence, and it will. I know that sometimes after 4 or 5 turns and you read these, you're like, whatever. It can give you some good information. And I'll point out something in this that just caught my eye when I looked over this before I started the episode. So we've got the 314th Army is loaded. Okay, Apari. All right, so we've seen Apari once. Could be true, could be not. 5 Ninth Infantry Regiment is loaded on an Aiden Cargo class AK moving to Legazpi. Well, first of all, that's really specific information. So, oh, the Aiden cargo class, who knows what that looks like? Um, what civilians walking around saying, "Oh, that Aiden cargo class, love that ship." Uh, so that's very specific. Whether I should or not, I pay a little more attention to those. But I see Legazpi here. I see Legazpi here. I see Legazpi here. It starts to give me the idea that this may really be true. Uh, Evidently, the Japanese may have a target at Legazpi. So where's Legazpi? Legazpi is in the Philippines. It's right here. Um, and it seems that this may be where they're going to land. This is another favorite landing spot for the Japanese. I tell you that playing the game, but I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm just telling you, there's 3 or 4 places that the Japanese are generally going to land in the Philippines, and Legazpi is one of them, and you can see why. Right? It's at the southern tip of Luzon. They take this, they kind of cut off some of your retreat ability here, and they start to move up the island. Now, they're also probably going to be landing on the northern tip here as well and squeezing you in that vice. But when I look at this, signal intelligence report, I'm thinking, Legazpi is definitely a place where they're probably going to head. Now, is there anything we can do about it in this instance? No. But further on in the game, if you're starting to see, looking at this report, and you're seeing a lot of Midway Island, or you're seeing a lot of Rabul, or something like that, you say, oh, okay, it's looking pretty apparent that's where they're thinking about landing. Um, you see here, we've got attack on Guam. Okay. We also got some detection, it seems, on some divisions here. All right. It looks like a Pari is mentioned a few times. We'll go look at that in a minute. It also seems that Miri is listed a few times. Not surprising there. And you could look at these, some of these it'll tell you it's located at. You're starting to get some detection, starting to know where enemy forces are located. You get enough of these reports, you fly enough recon, you can get a really good idea of what the Japanese have at certain places. So let's look at Apari and let's look at Miri. Well, Miri is easy. We'll go here first. Miri is right here, would not be unusual, and just it's common sense, right, that the Japanese, if they're going to start to hit here at Sarawak and down into Borneo, that Miri might be a place that they come first. It sounds like maybe it is. Well, we have quite a bit of sub activity out here, so that's good. You do see our ship here that's going over to Miri, and this is going over to actually remain on station, it's going to get some fuel over there at Miri, although it sounds like the Japanese are coming this way. Now, apart, so when I'm, watching back a turn or looking at these reports, I just don't remember right off the top of my head exactly where Apari is. Again, you can always come up here, find Apari, hit 8273, and there we go. Okay, makes sense, right? That Apari, so now it's starting to look like they're going to run this pincher type movement here, Apari, Legazpi, and then move to the middle of the island that way. Probably smart as a Japanese player to come straight in and try to take Clark Field or Baton or Manila. Very difficult. I mean, we've got a hornet's nest of stuff here. Move to the edge. They can then move air assets in, whether it be from the north or from the south. And so, we're starting to kind of get a painting of how the Japanese are going to attack the Philippines. Um, the other stuff here, somewhat interesting, but I always look over that report. You just never know. You just never know. I've had times where it really has alerted me to the fact that someone, generally playing a human, where you're going to get more um, un more unusual play, let's put it that way. And where you're not expecting something, you read these reports and you start to put together a little bit of a picture. Oh, okay, they're completely bypassing, Batavia and Oosthaven, let's say, and going straight to Surabaya because you see all of this, signal intelligence reports that keep saying Swerbaya. I think it's always useful. I also do generally look at the weather, just see what's going on. This becomes more important when you go on the offense, of course, when you're thinking maybe of bombing missions. If for some reason it's not good weather over a bombing target, may give you pause, may make you think about it. We never talked about the malaria zone. It's showing you the malaria zone here. Uh, that adds to your attrition. It's just nothing, something, look, that's one of those things that if you're really that concerned with the malaria zone, you're probably doing pretty well if that's your biggest concern. So I just haven't covered it a lot, but there it is. They do show you the malaria zone. Some interesting things when I just flipped around. There, there weren't a ton. We've got our ships moving from Abaddon to Aden and from Aden to Abaddon. We've got, I believe this is the Colombo that's coming out here. Indeed it is, heading to Colombo. We've got all of these ships that have now scattered out, and we've got some that are either going to Abaddon or coming down to Karachi, and that's the main thing going on here. You've got all of these ships that are coming out of these various ports, going different places. Generally, this is all local supply stuff, but the first few turns, I go and check every single task force to make sure it's got the right orders. This is that we got a troop transport here. No, this is cargo. That's right. It's what is this? Oh, it's an amphibious. I was like, that looks like a troop transport. The amphibious, when you give it the amphibious order, it looks like a troop transport. So we've got task forces here spreading across the Bay of Bengal. You start to see the stuff coming out of Calcutta. Excuse me. A lot of that will be heading to Rangoon, and you see a lot of the stuff coming out of Rangoon heading to Calcutta. Um, these ships here, these task forces, I should say, very vulnerable, as you can tell. So let's hope they get where they're going very quickly. These are the kind of ships that when you take a second look, you may start to think about running them full speed. Now, in this case, they're just going up here to Port Blair uh, and then back to Colombo. There's not any fuel at Port Blair, so they couldn't even refuel really if they wanted to. I mean, there's 100 units, but they're going to drop at Port Blair. You can't really run them full speed because they can't refuel. So we're kind of at the Japanese mercy there. Um, we've got these ships that came out of the eastern part of Sumatra here, generally heading down to Singapore, although we have these going to Palembang. You see the importance of this strait here. This is a perfect example of why this strait is so important. You've got ships coming to, fro, here, there. In all cases, though, very important to hold this strait. Now, you may be saying, what is this, different kind of symbol here? That is a mine layer. When you see a ship like that, it is a mine layer. When it's got that little, I don't even know what you call it. It almost looks like a plus sign when you're this far away from it. We obviously can't zoom in, so who knows? But an asterisk, a plus sign, whatever the case may be. Over here to the off-map bases, you see Cape Town, lots of activity, and as I mentioned, we've got new ships in Cape Town, so you're constantly going to be forming new task forces, deciding where they're needed. We got these new troop transports, pretty decent capacity. It's okay, not bad. The Felix Roussel and the Cap Saint Jacques. These are French, actually. So we've got some French troop transports. Nice troop capacity. Good. You like to see that on a transport. This kind of breakdown, troop to cargo. So we'll be deciding what we need to do with those. Now, we already know we're getting a lot of ground units into Cape Town next turn. So most likely we'll be ready for them with those troop transports. We can head down here to Perth. Things starting to scatter about here at Perth. We've got a ground unit. My gosh, get the lifeguards out here. They really put it all the way down here at the bottom left of the hex. Makes it seem like they're swimming. These guys are headed up to Bustleton. Bustleton doesn't have a garrison requirement, but essentially they're garrisoning Bustleton. That brings us over here to Sydney, where you see the mass exodus out of Sydney with tons of supply and fuel and task forces going all over the South Pacific here. Also, a lot of ships coming out of Melbourne and Launceston. Those now heading to their destination. So as you can see in one day, quite a bit happens. These ships loaded up, many of them, with different things, and they have gotten on their way. You can always click and see how far they're going to go in a pulse, and then the next pulse. Of course, we've got normal speed, max speed. In this case, it looks like they're running about 2.5, 3 hexes a turn. Not the fastest. This one happens to be going to Norfolk and I believe this is cargo, Norfolk Island. Okay. Um, Again, just always make sure they've got orders. They're not just floating about. Generally, if a ship or I keep saying a ship, a task force does not have orders, it'll go straight back to home port. You just don't want to get it in a low fuel situation. We've got the French ships here in blue. So even the ships themselves want the icons out here. You can tell the nationality. These are British with that brown. And indeed, they are a British task force of cargo, and these guys are just headed to LA. They're deadheading over to LA with nothing on board, and you can follow that all the way. Um, there's a lot of things moving, a lot of moving parts where we're getting our logistics set up. So here's the real interesting spot on the map right now as you see just an absolute mass of Japanese ships, most of these submarines, and you can hover over here. Um, Task Force sighted one, but it's showing you the submarine icon. So they have congregated on both sides of the main island here. Um, well, it's not the main island, it's the island of Pearl Harbor. Uh, Back up. It's not the island of Pearl Harbor. It's the island Pearl Harbor is on, and it is not the main island of Hawaii. My goodness. Um, we have plenty of submarines in the area. Now we're outnumbered, I guess you would say, but we have a lot out here. This right here is why we did not do anything with our shipping for the most part out of Pearl Harbor, because this is that would just be a turkey shoot, right? We do see this. This is the Keto Butai. Now, in that live stream, I said, "Gosh, I don't think we've seen it." I was mistaking this for submarines. This, when you see something like this, enemy task force, task force spotted, task force spot, there's a lot of spotting going on here. This is obviously a big task force. The only one it could be is the task force that directly attacked Pearl Harbor, the Keto Butai. Here it is. Now it's kind of taking a strange route out of here. Many times it will peel off north and go back this way. This time it's hovering and it's still pretty close for you consider when you consider there are carriers, cruisers, light cruisers that are here that go at 30 knots. It did not move very far offshore here. Now, the main worry, I guess you would say, now I like the fact we've got submarines here. Now, we are running ASW with these guys out here. So we've got these destroyers, mine layers. They're only worth 5 points. If this task force comes through here, look, these ships are in trouble. I mean, we do have the Indianapolis, and originally we were routing it like this, assuming that that main Japanese task force may come back up here and they would be safe. I will be changing that routing to be going even further south because it's not clear what their intentions are. Now, they may just come out of here and go straight up to Midway. They may come out of here and go straight west, in which case I do believe this would still be pretty close to being in the range of their bombers. So we still need to take it south. But hey, this task force could come straight south first and then head west. So we've really got to be careful with the Lexington here. I do think this turn I will put the Lexington on full speed for a turn and really try to get this thing booking south, get it down here. Uh, within one, can we make it quite that far? I think it's like 9 hexes, 8, 9, 10, 10.5 hexes. So, we would be down here in one turn, and I really want to get it out of here and clear the zone. Hey, if we get low on fuel, we'll figure it out. You just cannot afford to lose an aircraft carrier this early on. We have 3 regular cruisers, we have 5 destroyers. You've got to get this out of the zone. And so we will be doing that this turn. The way I'm thinking about formatting these is because this was the first turn, and also because I was afraid the live stream wasn't the easiest thing to see, I'm doing kind of a recap here uh, in general and just looking around the map. I also, almost like a basic tutorial kind of thing, wanted to cover all the stuff you can see up here on the info buttons. From now on, what I'll do is maybe come back, run, or talk about an overview of the different things that have come in, the orders we're giving, what we're doing, and then a second part of that where well, maybe that's when we'll give the orders and then we'll hit next turn, watch that all together, and do that. So kind of do 2 different episodes for each turn at the start. Once we get to a certain point, that might be a little bit of an overkill. But I'll try to keep them around 30 to 45 minutes, depending, and do sort of a here's what happened last turn, here's what we're doing next turn. Okay, you see all of our shipping coming out here from San Diego and LA. This will be a common refrain. We've got all of this stuff coming out from San Francisco, LA predominantly. A lot of ships moving around. We will be getting Japanese sub action here very shortly, and eventually we'll really, I say eventually, as soon as we can, we need to be setting up ASW nets out here to dissuade the Japanese from too much submarine action here. Nothing worse than losing a troop transport just out of the shallow water in and around LA, San Diego, or up here at San Francisco. To the north, a lot of stuff coming out of Seattle, Vancouver, and you know, we are on our way. We have begun. It is now December 9th, 1941. When I come back next time, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to issue orders. I'm going to go over all of the different orders I need to give, the new units that have arrived, maybe some things I want to change. I'm, offline going to be going through probably every task force again and looking at China again, doing all that, making sure everything is set up the way I want it to be set up. So when we come back next time, I'll just, have 5 or 10 things that I think are interesting. We'll kind of go over those and then we'll hit next turn and we'll see how it all plays out. So as always, thank you so much for joining me. I do appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, give me a subscribe. I would like that. We will probably be live streaming on Sunday. That will maybe be turn 3 or 4, something like that, and hopefully there will be some good action. At that point, a lot of these task forces will be getting to their initial destination, so we can talk a little bit about that and how to keep track of things. So again, as always, I really appreciate it. This is Strategy Gaming Dojo. I'll talk to you next time.